Take our hands, O God, as we come to worship. Good to welcome you this morning to the Chapel by the Sea, and if you're visiting with us, I'd like to extend to you a special greeting. We're certainly happy that you're here. Hope you enjoyed the service, that is meaningful to you, and that you do come to worship with us again. The announcements are printed in your bulletins this morning. There are several to which I'll call your special attention. There will be no blood pressure readings either in May or in June. Volunteers are needed for several things. Communion preparers, Pete and Carol Tambeck and Teddy McCune pretty much have done it by themselves for quite some time now. And if you could help with that, it would be greatly appreciated. Just contact the church office, and Sherry can set you up with Pete and Carol so that they can tell you what needs to be done. As you know, we do have communion the first Sunday of every month. Also, we need somebody to kind of keep an eye on our book swapping program in Chapel Hall. We got a whole bunch of books there, but they get a little messy after a while. So if you'd be interested in just coming once in a while and taking care of that maybe once a month or so, again, please call Sherry. The information is all there on the Jacobson Matching Fund. We are up to around $82,000 and in our program with the Jacobson Foundation, and they were here last Wednesday and gave us a check for $200,000 towards our new project. So we're certainly happy about that and looking forward to all of the improvements that are soon going to start to be made. At the end of the service, Rick Fry, our caretaker, has asked if you would remember, please, before you leave, just take the pamphlets and all that are in the pew racks in front of you and just stick them on your seats. We're changing those out, and we're going to be doing some things so you could help by just, at the end of the service, or if there's room on the seat. Yeah, there is a little room this morning, isn't there? So if there's some room, just put it on the seat now, and it'll be there then for him to take care of as he sees fit during the week. At this point, then, Liz Adikes and Bryn Muller have an announcement. There's information in the bulletin, but they're going to tell you what that's all about.
My name is Bryn Muller.
And my name is Liz Adikes.
We are Girl Scouts in Troop 1075 and are currently working on our Silver Award. We started by talking with the director of RCS's food bank, who said too often families opt for the unhealthy food and suggested we focus on healthy eating. Our project's goal is to provide RCS's Grace House with the cookbooks that include healthy and inexpensive recipes. We will also do demonstrations for the children of Grace House on quick, healthy, and after-school snacks. We will also share our cookbook with other agencies working with the homeless population.
There is a special outreach envelope in your bulletin this morning, and we would greatly appreciate donations to fund the printing of the cookbooks and the items needed for our demonstrations. We will be in the Friendship Foyer after the service to collect any contributions. Thank you.
We thank Liz and Bryn for their devotion to these kinds of projects, and you're going to be helping them as you help the people of RCS, and it's part of our total outreach program. So again, they'll be in the Friendship Foyer near the Orange Juice Fellowship at the end of the service, and if you'd like to contribute to their project, that would be greatly appreciated. Let us now begin our service of worship.
this beautiful day that the Lord has created, would you please join in the call to worship responsibly? In the beauty of this new day, we gather to worship.
While considering the challenges and opportunities this new day offers, we gather to worship.
Now let us raise our voices, our hearts, our lives, together in prayer and praise.
We seek the presence of God together at this time and in this place.
We seek the presence of God in one another.
We are here. Let our worship begin.
We will now have the invocation in unison. As we come together this morning, O God, fill us with power and faith. Indeed, fill us with whatever we will need to be as productive as possible in your service. Open our eyes to the possibilities around us. Open our hands to help those with greater needs than our own. Open our hearts to your indwelling presence, so we can become disciples indeed as well as in word. Show us your destinations which As we have been blessed, please be generous as the ushers come forth to collect this morning's offerings.
Lord of yesterday and today and tomorrow, enable us to look to the future with hope and anticipation. Show us that despite the darkness that we see all too often in our world, the sun rises every morning on a new and fresh day, a day in which we can make a difference and improve our planet for all its inhabitants. Where there is hatred, let us bring love. Where there is injustice, let us bring fairness. Where there is oppression, let us bring freedom. Where there is hunger, let us bring abundance. Where there is sickness, let us bring health. Where there is violence, let us bring healing. Where there is war, let us bring peace. Make us stronger in body and spirit so we can better follow the Christ in emulation of his will and way. Now we ask that you give your special blessing to all here this morning who have needs of any kind, those who are sick, sorrowing, hurting, confused, victimized. Help them see you as they see you in us. Support us in our efforts to bring relief wherever it is needed. So we pray together, and now we come to you in the quietness of our own cares and concerns. Amen. I want to read to you this morning two passages from the Gospel of Matthew. I'm reading first from Matthew 4:23 through 24, and then Matthew 9:35 to 38. Jesus went throughout Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and curing every disease and every sickness among the people. So his fame spread throughout all Syria, and they brought to him all the sick, those who were afflicted with various diseases and pains, demoniacs, epileptics, and paralytics, and he cured them. And then moving to chapter 9, verses 35 through 38. Then Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues, and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and curing every disease and every sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore ask the Lord of the harvest to send our laborers into his harvest." Let's think about these words together, and hopefully they'll acquire greater meaning for us as we continue together in our worship this morning.
Stand
I have been attending the Stetson Pastor School in DeLand for over 25 years. It is a wonderful program which brings in renowned speakers on a variety of topics which should be of interest to each and every pastor. But like so many such programs, most of which have closed their doors, the attendance keeps dropping. While there were over 150 participants once, the numbers are now down to about 70. A few years ago, I was talking with Clyde Fant, the founder and director of the school, and he asked me why I thought the situation had changed to such a degree. I said that I had observed that ecumenism has been on a decrease for some time, and that as older pastors have died or retired, their younger successors have not been as interested in community involvement or continuous education. I cited the fact that when I came to Clearwater over 35 years ago, we had a vibrant Upper Pinellas Ministerial Association that met monthly with about 25 to 30 clergy in attendance. That dwindled to 3 or 4 of us getting together for lunch and then stopped completely a couple of years ago. I suggested that too many younger clergy are primarily interested in building their own kingdoms and are not drawn to getting together with other churches for whatever reason. Clyde suggested that he thought that was accurate. In fact, he said that if he held a conference on growing the church, he would probably have a waiting list. Growing the church. For a variety of reasons, we are all interested in growing the church, every church, our church. So you see, in that regard, the chapel is no exception. We want the chapel to grow primarily for 2 reasons. So we will have more members and resources to meet our needs and pay our bills, and so that with increased resources we can better meet the needs of the community, including those of our own church family. That's why we have a marketing committee which strives to make sure the community knows who we are and where we are and what we do. That's why we have a marketing committee which strives to articulate the kind of church which we are and keep us on the map. That's why we have a marketing committee which strives to spread the word and let folks know that we are here and ready to serve. It should come as no surprise to be told that the church is having a tougher and tougher time reaching out to a postmodern and secularized society. Although Christianity, as well as other religions, is growing in some parts of the world, its numbers are dwindling in more developed, more affluent countries. According to the Hartford Institute of Religion Research, while 40% of Americans say they go to church weekly, only about 20% really do. In other words, 80% of Americans are doing something else on Sunday mornings, and even more are doing something else during the week. And the numbers are not going up. 20% of the United States public and 35% of adults under 30 are religiously unaffiliated, according to the Pew Research Center. And this organization further states, in the last 5 years alone, the unaffiliated have increased from just over 15% to just fewer than 20% of all U.S. adults. Their ranks now include more than 13 million self-described atheists and agnostics, nearly 6% of the U.S. public, as well as nearly 33 million people who say they have no particular religious affiliation. That's 14%. Let me throw out one more sobering observation before I move on. For the first time in history, more than half the global population lives in urban areas, a percentage which is increasing rapidly. It is estimated that by 2050, that number will have increased to 70%. So what? Well, this is significant because when urban areas tend to be more secularized than rural ones. Cities are the nerve centers of education, culture, fashion, entertainment, jobs, wealth, creativity, politics. And so it is not difficult to see how people in the cities with a subculture of materialism become entangled in the web of a postmodern indifference toward religion. None of this bodes well for the church. Such staggering statistics lead pastors and congregations to ask some probing questions. Questions like, how can Christians make an impact on a postmodern culture? Why has the mission of the church to share the teachings and secure the implementation of what the church believes in stagnated and decreased in our world? Is the gospel relevant in a secularized society? So, does that mean that we might as well pack it in and close the doors? Does that mean that our marketing committee might as well stop spinning its wheels because the trends are working against their efforts being successful? Does that mean gloom and doom is the only reasonable stance for the church to take because the future looks as bleak as it can possibly be? No. Despite the tone of the beginning of this sermon, my answer is no, and I have several reasons for saying that. Firstly, we begin with a recognition that there is a difference between quality and quantity. The most Christian churches are not necessarily the biggest Christian churches, and vice versa. Although every church needs enough people in its pews and in its programs to keep the operation alive and functioning, size isn't the major factor or necessity. Jesus indicated that he would be there whenever and wherever 2 or 3 gathered in his name, not 100 or 500 or 1,000 as a base requirement. I'm not suggesting that numbers don't matter. Rather, I'm saying that they are not of primary importance. What is of primary importance is what the people who are in any and every church are doing in terms of trying to lead Christian lives in keeping with what they perceive to be the will and way of God as seen in and through Jesus Christ. We may find that the church of the future, while smaller, might be stronger. It will depend upon how committed its members are to what they claim to believe. Secondly, every church, as well as every pastor, has this desire to reach the unchurched, for their benefit and its benefit. This is a noble and worthwhile aim. But we have discovered that build it and they will come really doesn't work. Certainly not for the long haul. So perhaps in spending so much time and energy in trying to reach those who have made no bones about the fact that they don't really care about the church or its teachings or its programs, we concentrate our energies and resources on those who are already in the church and make sure that those who are looking for a church know where to find one. So while marketing, which tells the community that we are here and what kind of church we are and what the church can mean in a person's life is valuable, we should not worry so much about beating the bushes to drag in new bodies, but rather provide the best religious and empowering and uplifting and strengthening experiences we can for those who have already found us. And then perhaps those who have found us will share with their families and friends what their church means to them and why. No pressure, just sharing. And the strongest sharing is by deed rather than by word. If this is done, all kinds of beneficial changes can take place. Thirdly, we must realize that one reason so many have no use for the church is because of what their concept of the church is. They see it as rigid and restrictive, demanding and dictatorial, dogmatic and despotic, and too often they would be right. They see it as a power-hungry organization using fear and guilt to get what it wants. And too often, they would be right. When a church exhibits the attitude of my way or the highway, well, that's not going to pull in hordes of people. And when a church claims that it wants younger folks to get involved, and then the older folks who are running the show make it plain that nothing is going to change, well, we see how that works. And when a church tells people that they are going to go to hell if they don't toe the line, not many are going to jump at the chance to sign up and join. The good news here is that it doesn't have to be that way. If a church is accepting and open, welcoming and flexible, warm and giving, good things can happen. Now, I'm not talking about forgetting or ignoring its principles, but I am talking about realizing that that which is old is not necessarily good, and that that which is new is not necessarily bad, and that God speaks to different people in different ways, and we are unbelievably arrogant if we ever think or suggest that he is only talking to us. Fourthly, and most importantly, we have an unparalleled example to follow. We have Jesus Christ. Why did so many come to Jesus? We are told that when he walked in the countryside or sat on a hill or strolled by a lake, crowds of people came to be with him, to see him, to touch him, to hear him. You and I could do the same thing. And do you suppose we would soon be surrounded by adoring fans? I don't think so. So how did Jesus pull them in? He didn't try to pull them in. And he didn't start by walking or sitting or strolling regardless of the setting. No, he started by doing something for them and with them. He started by helping them meet their needs, whatever those needs were. He healed them. He comforted them. He accepted them. He loved them, the sick, the troubled, the rejected, the unlovable. Let me read to you again what Matthew had to say about Jesus' style, Jesus' methodology, Jesus' way. Then Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and curing every disease and every sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. So yes, he talked to them, he taught them, but he didn't give them rules and regulations by which they had to live if they wanted to be accepted by him. He accepted them for who and what they were, with the hope that they could be made better by following the paths, the possibilities, the potential which he unrolled before them. He gave them advice which could help them meet their needs and change their lives. He shared with them practical stuff that beneficially impacted on all that they faced, and he gave them hope. And before he did that, he mingled with them as one of them and got his hands dirty by delving into what was hurting them and doing something about it. Jesus was where people were. Mark Finley, a leader in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, has said, Jesus mingled with people. He did not stand aloof waiting for people to come to him. He was there mingling with them in their marketplaces, eating with them in their homes, discussing the issues of life beside the sea, rubbing shoulders with the crowds on the cobblestone streets of Jerusalem, and sharing the mysteries of life on the hillsides of Galilee. Jesus talked about common things like fishing, farming, weddings, money, and families. Every day and in every way, Jesus built relationships with people. They sensed that he cared for them individually. In Christ, the downtrodden, oppressed, and needy found one who sympathized with them and fully understood their plight. The model of Jesus' ministry was to unselfishly and graciously minister to needs everywhere. Why did the masses follow Jesus? What attracted such a wide variety of people from so many different walks of life to him? Why did he appeal to such widely different characters as Nicodemus, the Samaritan woman, Mary Magdalene, the palsy-stricken man by the pool of Bethesda, Zacchaeus, the thief on the cross, and the Roman centurion? They saw in Jesus one who truly cared. His authentic, genuine concern opened the locked doors of their minds. They followed him because he had so clearly and fully revealed the Father's love. They could not resist this divine, agape, self-sacrificing, unselfish love. So observes Mark Finley. I guess it comes down to this. Our job is to serve God by serving our fellow human beings, as well as the other inhabitants of this planet, which we believe was created by the God we serve. And as Christians, we do that by striving to follow the teachings of Jesus and emulate the deeds of Jesus, so that our world becomes a better and better place with greater kindness and increased justice and more love. If we are doing that, we are doing what we were created to do. And the main way we let the community know who and what we are is to be out in the community as a church and as its people, living our mission and our beliefs. In this sermon, have I been describing the chapel by the sea? Yes, to at least some extent. We are open and friendly and inviting. We are accepting and loving and tolerant. We are involved in the secular life of our community, corporately and individually. We are concerned about the well-being of our neighbors, particularly those of our neighbors who have the greatest needs. And we strive to meet those needs, especially through involvement in such agencies as Religious Community Services and Homeless Empowerment Project. We are among the people because we are of the people, hopefully demonstrating our faith by the way we live. And our doors are open to all who come to us for whatever reason, and we try to help. But we can always do better. And as we keep on keeping on, doing what we do and trying to do it better while meeting people where they are, well, our actions will always speak louder than our words, and we will be faithful to the Christ we follow. A new day is dawning for this church. New leadership is going to bring new insights, new energy, new ideas, and I think the future is bright. But it will be up to you and to me, to all of us, to give this new leadership the support and encouragement that she will need to accomplish her goals and implement her concerns and demonstrate her faith. Can we be counted on to do our part? As we leave here, may it be with a commitment to actually live in the world what we claim to believe. And as we do that, may the Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift the light of his countenance upon us and give us peace, both now and forevermore. Amen.